Okay. Let's see. Roll up my sleeves and get ready to draw. Rolling up my sleeves and get ready to draw. Yeah. Get ready to draw. Oh yeah, I'm gonna draw today. Okie dokie, everybody. Button up my shirt. Getting all ready to draw today. Okay. I think I am ready to go. Are you ready to go? Let's tilt this. Let me see a little bit more of the room. Okay. I think I can close that. Peter says, hello, the adventure continues, and you're right. Nice to see you guys. Look at all the people here. Lots of familiar faces, which is always so nice to see. Especially, I mean, those of you that have taken my classes before in person, it's great always, of course, to see you back again. It's also just so fascinating to me to see those of you that have never met me before, that live on the other side of the planet, that have, through some sort of magical process, found me, and we found each other, and here we are, in this bubble, talking to one another and learning a little bit. And speaking of which, just before I forget, next Tuesday, so this time next week, is when the painting class begins. And I put a link in the live chat there, and I'll put it in the video description in below as well, for those of you that are interested. And I've already posted a rough version of the of me talking about what supplies you need. So if you look on, maybe I'll find that at a break. I'll put a link to that video so that you can go watch that. And it just talks about what kinds of paint I recommend you buying, what kinds of brushes and palettes, and that you should have clothes that can get paint on it, and blah 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 blah. So I'm planning on editing that down, but obviously life is just a little bit busy. Today was my first day back at school, the university I teach at, the art school. So lots of stuff going on. And then this is the last week of the drawing class, which makes me very sad. But 40 episodes now in, I feel like we've certainly accomplished a lot of ground here. So, I'm just looking at the comments here. Leaf Mold is saying, can't hear me. I'm just looking, maybe, looks like I've got audio coming through there. So, oh, Peter says the audio is okay. So, Amy says the audio is okay. So, I'll just keep on going. Maybe, sometimes there's just the glitch of the internet, right? Okay. So today, I've sort of taken a quick little detour, since it's the last couple classes, and a few of you were talking about wanting a little bit of lessons on landscape last class. And my original plan was just to plow ahead and do more figure stuff, more faces, etc. And in retrospect, I thought, like, because I was planning on doing like a whole nother 20-30 courses on landscape and really going in depth on that, but that probably won't begin until like next March or something. So that's a long time to say, hey, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, Peter. Because I think that was you who asked about that, or one of you. So I thought maybe let's, I think some people may, I know talking to my own mom who was like, I don't know about this, all these faces, it's not really my strength. So I thought, you know, let's come back to something that people are asking about. And also, this is maybe potentially my greatest strength. So let's end on a real high, right? Okay, so enough of me talking. Let's get right to drawing. Those of you that are tuning in for the first time, the whole plan is we do a little bit of warm-up drawings, some quick sketching, 5-minute drawings, and then we do some longer drawings. And then at the very end, if there's any time, then I take a look at some of the images that you guys have made and that you send in through Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, etc., and give you some feedback on your artwork, because obviously I can't come around to your desk and see what you're up to. So I just went outside, and I'm going to pull up a view here. So I just went outside and collected some leaves. I have some images of leaves, and I thought, you know what, it's the beginning of, or is it officially fall yet? When does fall begin or end? I never quite get my head around the seasons. So I figure, why don't I go outside since the leaves are falling off the trees, and we'll take a look at actually drawing some real plants instead of just more images off of Google search and stuff, right? So this is literally what I collected in about 1 minute of walking around my house. So lots of options. You'll see some of these leaves are, you know, more alive, fresher than others, and some of them are quite brittle. Now there's no, you know, good or bad kind of leaf to draw. So we'll do kind of a combination. Let's see. Let's start with, how about we'll start with this guy. I guess I don't know necessarily the gender of this leaf here, so it could be this gal. The leafy gal. And, okay, I'm going to draw in a red to begin with, and then I'm going to transition to blue as my drawing gets going. So, let me see. I guess I could brighten it up a little bit. Let me just to get some of the detail in here. Okay, so I'm going to draw this leaf. Let's say I'm going to put it here because maybe I'm going to do my next drawing right there. In fact, I'm going to divide my sketchbook up into 4. Remember, this is just our warm-up drawing, so the stakes are really low. Now, if I wanted, I could literally take this and just trace around it, right? We did that with our hand way back when, right? Obviously, those of you that are at home aren't going to be able to do that, so I'm not going to do it either. I don't want to have an unfair advantage that you guys don't have. Okay, so just to begin, to help sort this drawing out, and I'm going to draw a little bit darker than probably I should, right? So I'm just drawing kind of this little stem, or the, what would you call that? The root, or not the root, the, I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows what the vein or whatever of this leaf. And so that tells me, let's say I'm going to try to end the top up there and the bottom down there. And I want to try to make this kind of arc. And it kind of looks like a little bit kind of like that. Maybe a little bit sharper on the top. Right, it's almost a bit like of an almond shape, right? Although, so then once even if I'm not happy with it, at least I know I've got something on the page that I can work with. So, you know, I feel like this kind of curves in here instead of kind of out. So I'm going to just make a quick little edit. Okay. And then, excuse my big head, but I don't, it's very, probably on this side, it's pretty subtle. You can see some of these veins on here. On this side, it's a little bit trickier to see. So I'm just going to kind of invent things a little bit. This is our sketch, remember, just to kind of get going. I often find with leaves is sometimes like they don't always seem to match up. They always seem to be kind of staggered that way. I'm sure there's maybe a botanist or out there who would be able to explain why. And often these don't always go right to the end. I mean, but again, you want to observe this stuff on your own to see. And so don't just take my word for it. So I'm going to cut this in a little bit here. Okay. So that would be my quick little sketch to begin with. And now I'm just going to go over top of it with this blue, which would represent you just maybe darkening your drawing in a little bit. Okay. And even though, for the sake of this sketch, this stem, or a vein, or I should know what this is here, is kind of white on a dark background. Just for this sketch, I'm actually going to make it a dark line rather than like a light line. All right, because I'm not going to color this in. All right. And then, you know what, I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow to it. And what's interesting about this shadow is look how it actually is telling us about this shape of the leaf that I can't actually really see very well with my eyes, right? So I see this kind of the well, not serrated edge, but the, I don't know, bubbly edge of this leaf. So, you know, I've mentioned many times before how helpful shadows can be to help us understand the shape of things. Okay. Is this the best drawing I've ever done? No, absolutely not. Does it drive me crazy that it's not the best drawing I've ever done? No, especially because it's my warm-up drawing, right? So there's one drawing, and let's get a timer here. I'm going to set a timer for, let's say, 4 minutes for the next one. Okay, so thank you, Leaf, for letting me draw you. Let's go to something different now. How about this one here? I'm just going to get a piece of paper to... I often find if I'm trying to draw something, putting a piece of paper underneath it just to kind of separate it from the rest of the world is kind of like if I had a marble table underneath with all the veins and things moving around, this kind of thing could be kind of complicated to do. So putting a piece of paper there just helps isolate it from things. And, you know, I can even try to press this down a little bit. And I feel like that's kind of better. Move it up. So let's try to draw this in here. Again, let's say this is the top. And let's say I'm going to have to make it a little bit smaller to fit in here. Right? So if that's the bottom part of the leaf. Right? So let's say this is this part. So it's going to be, what, like 10% smaller or something. Right? So here's this part of the leaf. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly go and outline this here. Okay, even though it's not totally perfect, right, just creating that shape on the page is really important because now I can react to it, complement it, or erase, all that kind of stuff. And if I'm moving quickly, I want to be able to have these kind of things as a guide. Okay, and as I do this, I'm gonna allow my pencil to kind of get a little bit wobbly and kind of just to kind of capture the little bit more organic quality of this leaf, so that it's not made of plastic, it's not made of metal, so it shouldn't be straight, sharp lines. It's, you know, kind of crinkled and all that kind of stuff. So I want to capture that with my pencil. And then this part here is kind of folded up. So there we go. And then from there, I've got these. And, you know, to be honest, I'm fudging a little bit of this because I'm actually drawing this looking at the screen in the same way you are, because it would be a little bit different for me. You know, I could go like this and look right in on there and see that, but you can't do that. So I'm not going to cheat and try to do something you're not able to do. So now I'm going, and actually, even while I'm here, I can also just really quickly outline where this shadow would be. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my clock says I got 20 seconds left. Let's put it 2 minutes back on the clock, because I was blabbing away there at the beginning. So okay. And there are a few, it's again quite hard to see. So I'm just kind of fudging it a little bit. And again, you know, if I was a botanist and, you know, I'm on a expedition to an island that very few people have ever stepped foot on, and I'm wanting to document the flora and fauna there for the purposes of, you know, science, I would be, you know, I might probably spend 3 hours drawing this leaf, because I got to nail it, because, you know, all of science depends I get it right, right? That's not the case right now, right? No one's going to, you know, refer to this drawing to, you know, to determine whether or not they found some new species of leaf or tree or whatever, right? So I can allow myself to kind of fudge things a little bit. Okay, now obviously you can see I haven't added any, there's lots of these beautiful speckles on here, so I haven't done that yet. So I'm just going to quickly go in here and just add a little bit of that. And again, I'm going quickly, so I'm not measuring all specifically where everything is. I'm just trying to kind of generally kind of show that this is maybe got little spots on it. You know, it's like little freckles. And I could go endlessly into this drawing, but I'm going to move on. Okay, thank you, leaf. Let's see. I've got this thing here. Is this... Maybe I'll just take that off. I don't even know what kind of... These were beautiful flowers at one point, and again, forgive my incredible ignorance out there for what kind of flower this once was, but okay. So where's my pencil? Maybe I'm gonna move that up here, and I'm gonna draw it right down there. Okay, so I'm gonna set my timer for, let's say, 4 minutes again. Okay. So, it's just like when we were drawing the figure, right? We're looking, well, what is the main kind of through line in here upon which I can build this figure or shape, right? So it's obviously this kind of the spine of this thing I can draw, right? And then I'm going to tackle this leaf. You see how this one side, and then it kind of curls over onto the other side. And then this one here. Right, and let's say I can just put that extra little bit pulled off. Okay. Now this thing here is kind of a complex bunch of little shapes here, right? So this is where it gets interesting. How much detail do I want to put in here? You know, and we're going to talk about style here shortly, but, you know, I could, you see, I just sort of outlined it for myself to say, like, okay, this is where, you know, this thing is, right? That's kind of the boundaries of it. And I can't see too much of this detail, so I'm just going to quickly kind of draw what I kind of feel this is made up of. A whole bunch of these spindly, dried up, you know, flower pieces here. Okay, so I had the ones kind of going off to the side, and now I'm just sort of putting them on the top. And if I want, you know, they've got little spots on the ends. Okay, so I've got, what, 2 minutes left. So, sharpen that afterwards. I love these nice pencils, but boy, oh boy, they need to be sharpened so often. So this part of this flower, I guess, is the density that's built up when all of these pieces are kind of bunched up together. So you can allow your drawing to kind of just get, you know, of piling these shapes on top of one another to create like a blob of lines. If I was feeling more confident, I could just go directly to that stage of the darker ones first. Okay, so this is a little bit darker, so I'll darken that in, and darken this in. Now we got all this shadow. Do I want to draw all of the shadow? Probably not. All right, so what I'm going to do, and as what is happening kind of in this image, is, you know, they sort of clump together into kind of this kind of bunch of shapes. So I'm kind of simulating a little bit of that, like this. Okay. And let's do one more. Thank you, Leaf. Which one should we draw next? Kind of liked... Just going to pull this off here. So I like this one because I like the way that it's kind of folded over. So far we've been drawing one side or the other. Here we've got two sides in one. Let's zoom in here just to... Might be too close. Let me see. Actually, I'm just going to move this here. Okay. Oh, everything went pink. It might be the reflections off my shirt, maybe? Who knows? Looks like the camera's having a little bit of difficulty with the auto white balance. Anyway. So, let's draw this leaf. And maybe I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's say I'll give it 4 minutes here, and then we'll move on. We'll, I think by that point, have done a really nice, good warm-up. Okay. So I've got this piece coming in, and then it folds over and comes right back up here. And you can see, we can see the other side much better than this side. Okay, and I've got a shadow right here. All right, and this kind of hooks. So what I love about doing this kind of thing is there is no shortage of leaves in the world to draw, and pretty much every single one of them is unique, right? So you could easily spend the rest of your life just drawing the leaves that you find in your backyard or local park today. Like literally you could pick up 30 leaves and then spend the rest of your life drawing those 30 leaves over and over and over again, and have more than enough material to keep you busy. And I say that just because it's the thing that I hear the most from people is, I don't have any ideas, I don't know what to draw, I don't know what to do, I don't feel inspired. Well, as an artist, sometimes you have to make your inspiration. You have to go out and find things. Like, I've never believed that inspiration just hits you like a lightning bolt. Comes down from the sky and then boom! I'm inspired! Yay! And I can go and now I can make art that's going to change the world. Well, I don't think it works that way. You have to be actively looking for things in order to find them. I mean, sometimes you do find things when you're not looking for them, but it's unlikely that if you're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix that you're going to stumble on an amazing idea for a new art project. It's possible, but unlikely, right? So you got to get out there and you got to put one foot in front of the other. Okay. I got 1 minute left on my timer. So maybe I'll just kind of tighten this up a little bit. Got a little bit of... Maybe add a little bit. So that's the thing, is when you look at your timer, and again I suggest you use one, even when you're drawing by yourself, is that it helps keep you moving, and it tells you when to move on to the next drawing, so you don't just sit there and work endlessly on a drawing. And it's a great excuse to move on. You're like, oh, the timer went off. Well, sorry drawing, I gotta move on. You know, it's like a kind of speed dating kind of device, right? You're like, oh, this conversation's awkward. Thank goodness the bell went off, right? So, and that's sometimes the way with the drawing. Sometimes you're with this drawing and you're like, I am not feeling this one. I wish there was a bell that would go off and tell me I could just pick up and leave, right? You should never feel like you need to finish a drawing in the same way you shouldn't feel like you need to finish reading a novel that you're not into just because, you know, you feel like, oh, if I don't finish it, then I guess it says something about me or whatever. Okay, so let's push on here. Some of you who have taken my drawing classes before will probably recognize this next image. One second here. Just going to fill it up and expand. Okay, so I'm just going to show this. So this is the next image we're going to draw. This is the title on below there. Henri Matisse's Couple Walking in Landscape. So Henri Matisse, one of the great artists of the last century, a great inspiration for me personally. So with that in mind, we're going to draw this. Let me see. Let's get this view. Okay, so let's put this down. That didn't work out as I was expecting. There we go. Okay. So, I'm just going to back that off a little bit more so you can see the full sketchbook. There we go. Okay, how long should we work on this? Let's give it 8 minutes. So this is another great drawing that I would often use as a warm-up drawing. So where would we even start here? Well, I'm going to draw these lines with my orange that are going to be very light, just so I can think, okay, here's the path. These two people are walking down. All right, I've got this kind of the tall grass there, and then these trees in the background. Okay, so I'm going to start now drawing the trees that are kind of towards the front. All right, so one tree. And then he's kind of got this very kind of bushy, kind of cloudy kind of quality. Right, there's one. And then he's got another one off here. Okay. And then, let's see, there's this one here. You can see I'm not doing it exactly like his, because it doesn't matter to me whether I get it exactly right. One reason why I love focusing on this and showing it and using it with students as inspiration for landscape is you could see like how loose his style is and his approach, right? He's, you know, it's not very so-called realistic, you know, but yet it does convey this. We understand what's going on in here. We see these two people walking, maybe they're, you know, husband and wife, or a couple, or grandma and granddaughter. Who knows exactly what their relationship is? But they seem to be kind of walking down this nice path, garden path, forest path. Right? And I just find it really inspiring to think like, oh, I could do this. I can draw nice and loosely like that. That would be fun to do. You know, if this great, you know, titan of modern art gave himself permission to do this, then surely I should allow myself the same permission. Okay, so we got, you know, not even 4 minutes, and we've got a lot of the drawing, the maybe top half already drawn in here. So I'm going to now get these figures here. And the way that I'm drawing too, I might not even need to use my blue here. Right? Now I'm not sure exactly what this is. Maybe it's like some kind of sash. Maybe this is like Miss America or something after, you know, winning the title, is going for a walk, and I don't know, who knows what's going on there. Make that head a little bigger. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add some of this tall grass. Right. Well, maybe actually I'm going to put some of this down here. This kind of what I see is like a flat area. So you have maybe bushes right here. And you notice my drawing is not lining up exactly like his. And again, I just feel like I'm a broken record, but I just feel it's always important to remind people of that, because I know that there's probably a couple of you who are doing this drawing and are going, okay, how many bumps are here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I did 4 bumps instead of 3 little bumps down. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm a failure as a human being. What was I even thinking trying to learn how to draw? Oh, right? And so this shows you this particular kind of style, that it doesn't make a difference whether there's 3 or 4 bumps or 10, or you put something else entirely down here. You know, often when I teach, especially with maybe more advanced students, I say take this drawing and use it as inspiration, but go ahead and make alterations. Let's say you could put a cowboy hat on these people. You could make 4 people here. You could have a car driving down the path, or an alien spaceship landing in the background, or, you know, and so on and so forth, right? And so that just like this is just inspiration for another artwork. Okay, I got a minute left on there, so I'm gonna hold on for a second to let anybody catch up. Okay. Maybe it's time to have a quick little sip of water. Nice fizzy water, or as my wife calls it, spicy water. Okay, so let's transition from here. We're going to push on. These next couple of images I just have included because I think they're beautiful drawn. Maybe I'm going to make this even bigger. Can I make that bigger so you can see? On the top here, we have an illustration by a Canadian artist named B.C. Binning, who lived here in British Columbia. And you can see, you know, he was a contemporary of Matisse, so probably Matisse never met him, but similar kind of style, very loose. Like, look at the way the figures are drawn, like kind of almost cartoonish. But he made beautiful, you know, paintings that were much more structured than this. But, you know, at the time, I think he's probably standing there sketching these guys painting this canoe, or not canoe, like a rowboat. And they're moving all around, and maybe this guy's arm, maybe the guy stood up and turned and painted it. So at first he's like this, and then got up and this, and so he's like, oh, what do I do? And he's just like, oh, I'm just going to draw the arm over here regardless. I don't care if it makes perfect logical sense. And if anything, it kind of looks like there's movement in the drawing, which I really, really like. Same sort of thing, like this guy's arm almost seems to be disconnected from the body here, because maybe he was standing over here when he was painting this, and then the guy moved a little bit. Instead of erasing it and trying to make it work, he's like, I'm just gonna leave it. And I think that makes this drawing look like there's action and movement happening in there. On kind of the other end of the spectrum, in a way, is Vincent van Gogh, right? Van Gogh. And I love this drawing. And again, I've mentioned it before, but Van Gogh's drawings, some of them are infinitely better than the paintings that are more well known. What I think is great for our purpose about Van Gogh in terms of drawing is that he created like a language of mark making. So last week when we were talking about gesture drawing and drawing really quickly, we talked about developing a shorthand. And for those of you who didn't watch that, you know, the idea of a shorthand is like a language of, you know, shorthand used to be for, you know, people writing notes really quickly. You know, you're in a classroom, you're writing down what somebody's saying in real time, and maybe you have to even retype it later on. So you would come up with little ways to shorten sentences. Instead of writing the and but and so, you would just have maybe one letter or a shape or some kind of symbol that would represent those things. And maybe you're the only one that knows what they are, but every time you see or hear those things, you just plug in that thing. And the same sort of thing with drawing is that as you draw more and more, you're going to just naturally find that you start coming up with your own system, your own shorthand to describe certain things. So what exactly they all mean, I'm not necessarily sure, but let's say if we look at, let's see, we can even zoom in a little more. Can we? I guess it isn't letting me. Okay, for whatever reason, I can't zoom in anymore, but little little things in here like, are these little circles, are they rocks? Are they flowers? Are they broken seashells? Who knows? Is this a beach, or is this a pathway, a road? I'm not really sure, but I also don't mind that I don't know, right? That we don't always need to know every single detail like it's a map and we need an index for it, right? If you wanted that, you could put a little thing on the side here, like all the circles represent this represents this and that. But what purpose would that serve? For who, right? Maybe if you were a landscape architect and you really wanted to know very specifically, but he's using all these different types of dots and lines to show different types of things, right? Different types of plants get different types of marks. Some of them are drawn with, you know, probably like a quill pen or calligraphy pen, and some are, he's actually using a brush to paint in some of the larger things. So we're not going to try drawing that, but what we will do is, let's go here and so what I want to do is, let's go to another page in our sketchbook, and we're going to draw some of these. Actually, let's try this. Trim that. Okay, so I'm going to turn my sketchbook onto its side, and then I'm going to divide this in half. I'm going to divide it in half again. And then I'm going to divide each of these again. And then so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's say, let's put on the clock here. I know this is going to stress people out, but we are going to draw 8 different trees in 16 minutes, so 2 minutes a tree. Okay, so this is going to force us to work quickly and not, you know, get stuck on getting it right. Okay, 16 minutes. Now you can choose whichever ones from all the images here on the left that you want to draw, or you can certainly welcome to, and you know what, I'll show you how I would start. Let's say, I can't see what number that is. I think it's the second row on the far left. I'm going to try that one. So I could start like this. You know, kind of imagine this was drawn much more lightly. And then I'm just going to, you know, attack it, right? And let's just start throwing some dark lines right here onto the page. Okay, boom. There's one done. Less than a minute, and I was kind of babbling on too. So this is the level of drawing of detail that I want you to do. So let's move on to we'll jump over one to the middle of the second row, and I've got this big kind of bushy tree here, like that. So let's try drawing this thing here. Right, one side's a little bit bushier than the next. And you know, this seems like almost like a little bit of the light that kind of comes through there. So let's do that. And I'm just going to kind of scribble this in with kind of circular motion here. And I can kind of tighten that little gap in between here. And if I want to add just a little bit of more detail, I'm just going to kind of come back to these edges and just kind of come back out a little bit more. All right. Okay. How about, I'm going to go to the one right next to it in the second line from the top. That is it a coniferous tree? Is that I have no green thumbs on my body whatsoever, if you haven't already guessed. For somebody that loves drawing landscapes, I know nothing about plants or trees or, you know, how to water a plant, or, you know, we've got cactuses upstairs that I've somehow managed to kill off that because of overwatering or underwatering, and right. So you don't need to know something through and through in order to draw it. Right, so right here, this would be a tree that is kind of, maybe doesn't have a lot of needles on it, right? Maybe it's the, because, you know, there's some of those Christmas trees that look really bare, and then sometimes they have a lot of volume. So if I want to keep it like that, I could. Or I could go in here and just start kind of adding a little bit, thickening some places up in order to kind of make it look a little bit more voluminous. I don't know why that seems like the most difficult word I've ever tried to say. Another thing when we're drawing trees is generally, and this goes back to a stylistic thing, but generally you want it to look maybe a little bit asymmetrical, you know, so parts of the tree where there's, let's say, one side looks a little bit more full or fuller than the other side, right? So let's say we leave a little bit of a gap there. That just gives it more character, right? That it just seems a little bit more true to life, because we wouldn't expect a tree to be perfectly symmetrical on all sides. Okay, what's another one? How about let's draw a palm tree? So again, if I could just start with a line right down the middle. And then draw some of these kinds of things. So if I was you and I'm watching this and thinking about how do I apply all this in my regular life, is to and we're going to draw some more complicated things here, but to kind of think about if you could break it down in the same way that Matisse did, or in these very simple types of drawings. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, second from the left. Kind of messed that up, but I'm just going to go with it. Keep on going. So, you know, I've got this kind of thing, and so now I'm just kind of going over these lines, and I'm not too worried again about making it absolutely perfect. One of the reasons why I love drawing trees and flowers and plants is because each one is different, right? That, you know, if I draw a tree, it's very unlikely that someone is going to look at one of my drawings and go, yes, but I know that tree on the corner of 7th and Broadway, and it actually doesn't have a bottom branch like that. Actually, the bottom branch dips this way, and there's a pair of old sneakers tied to this side, which you omitted. So clearly, you're an incompetent artist, and you should just give up. I mean, it'd be pretty funny if somebody did that. Okay. I'm going to move on. Let's see. What's another one here? And again, I've got 8.5 minutes left, so I'm doing pretty good with my time. I think I'm just going to scroll up here a little bit. I'm going to do that one in the top right corner. Keep on going a little bit higher. So I'm going to put this here. Let's see. Okay. And obviously, generally, the tree gets wider at the bottom, right? So and as it approaches the trunk, so you can do the same sort of thing as you're drawing. You can kind of just make the bottom part get a little bit wider. What's fun about these is you could just keep on kind of drawing little branches coming off endlessly. Branches coming off of branches. So this type of drawing is quite difficult, or not difficult. It just becomes like, how many branches do you want to go? Like, how much density do you want to build into your image? Right, I'm not even looking at the screen, right? I'm not really concerned about making sure I've got the right branches in the right place. Maybe if I was standing there and this was the tree that Abraham Lincoln had planted the day he died, you know, maybe I'd really want to try to get a little bit more specific. But even then, it's unlikely that anyone would have any concerns about this. So I'm going to go to the one right to its left. I guess I've made that a little bit wide, but maybe I've just invented a new kind of a tree here. So, you know what? I kind of goofed on it, but I kind of like the way this looks. So even though this is not technically correct, I kind of just gonna go with it. What else? I feel like somebody's gonna be like, you did all of this type of tree, but not this one. What do you have against spruce trees? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know. So I'm gonna go. It's one pretty much close right in the middle, and see if I do that as my last tree. But of course, you could be drawing anything you like here. So. So I got 4 minutes left on the clock. So in terms of my time, I've actually done a pretty good job. Like, some of these were definitely more complicated trees than others. And, I could, in the areas that I saved time, I could go and spend more time on these more complicated ones. Okay. Okay. So I got 3.5 minutes, and I think rather than left on the clock here, and rather than me just standing here waiting, I think I'm going to move on. Whether you're done or not, if let's say you're only halfway done or you're a couple of away from being finished, you can always pause the video, or you could, you know, take a look outside and see if you can replace them with other images. So, let's kind of go from trees to leaves here. So, make this fit, just make it a little bit smaller here. Okay. So, similarly, let's now these are very stylized, almost like clip art kinds of images of leaves. So we're going to do something similar. And this time, well, I'll put 16 minutes here on the clock, and we'll see how many of these we can get done. So these are much more geometric and a little bit more, you know, angular and, you know, far more stylized than the actual plants. All right, so I'm just going to start with the apple tree in the top left corner here. So I'm just kind of quickly laying things in, and then I'm going to try to draw it in the same way that it is on here, as if it's like almost like a stamp. Right, and almost now I'm going to try to see how much I can mirror this onto the other side here. So I'm going to carry these lines like V shapes all the way across. Okay. So I'm going to do 4 of them here. Let's see. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try the oak one next. So similarly here, I'm just going to kind of say, okay, this is where the shape needs to be. It needs to fit all in there. And then let's do one side. I'm going to come back around and try to... Yikes. Okay, so it's not perfectly symmetrical. Do I want it to be perfectly symmetrical? Maybe for this exercise, the closer to, you know, something symmetrical, meaning the same on both sides, would be the goal. So I can try to do that. So it just takes a little bit of patience. It helps to have this down here because then it tells me, you know, if I didn't like the first pass, then I can try to... Oops, my head is in the way there, sorry. Then let's connect. Okay, and we can just add a few extra ones in here. Okay, I'm doing pretty good with time, so I'm going to try that ash tree in the bottom left corner there. So some people really like doing this more geometric kind of style of drawing than the little bit more freer or realistic style of drawing. One is not better than the other, it's just which one works for you. Which one do you find just more pleasant experience? And when I've done this in class and I've asked people, I'd say it's usually split pretty like evenly down the middle. Usually there's some people saying, I really like drawing this way, like it suits my brain, it just is very satisfying to kind of have things kind of organized like that. And then there's, you know, the other half of the class would be like, oh, this is just like too, it's like, feels like math class, it's just too strict and I want to just break free from it. So whatever it is, as long as you experiment with them, then you'll start to kind of learn a little bit about yourself and what kinds of approaches you find better. Now I'm going to draw the maple one, since it's maybe one of the more complex ones here. And I'm just going to challenge myself a little bit. Okay. Actually, I had a battery die here, so I'm just going to take a second while you guys continue drawing. I'm just going to... Oh, that's the... All of these cameras are certainly getting a workout today with all of the teaching I've been up to. All the batteries on a constant set of charging, all these chargers running. So where is that? Why isn't that going in? Okay. So this is going to set me a little bit behind on my my drawing, but I'm sure you guys are still doing really well. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, where was I? Those maple tree, right? So it doesn't matter if I've done it exactly like the images on the screen, as long as when I come around to the second side that I'm just matching up what I drew here. So if this is consistent, it doesn't matter how closely aligned it is to the original. Okay. When you get to this top, when we've done 4 of them, maybe just hold off for a second, because I'm going to kind of throw a wrench into everything here in a second. So some of you may have already started the next one. That's all right. I'm just, I'm sure some speedy folks in the class. I'm just going to, just for the sake of time, kind of switch the project up here a bit. Okay, oh yeah, all the veins and the leaves. I'm surprised somebody hasn't commented and told me what these parts of the leaf are yet. Surely there's a gardener amongst you there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and this is a little exercise that I often get people to do, is to take the drawings from your top and we're going to reproduce them on the bottom, but instead of trying to draw them all kind of very perfect and, you know, cookie cutter like this, like as if they're images from a clip art file on our computer, let's transform them back into realistic looking leaves. So for instance, what I'm going to do here is, let's say this leaf. So to do this, basically one of the rules I give myself is I'm not going to allow myself any straight lines. Everything's going to have to be a little bit kind of organic and wobbly and bent, right? So I kind of drawing these kind of the outline of the shapes, right? And then, you know, starting like this, right? So and so what's nice about this is we can just see the contrast between these two different approaches. Right, maybe a little bit longer, shorter. Right? If you wanted, you could put a little, let's say, put a little shadow under here. We just make up where it would be. Alright, okay, there's one. I got about 6 minutes left on my clock, so doing pretty good. Alright, so again. How about we have a little, there's a hole missing out of one side. Alright, some bugs have gotten at it. I can hear our daughter upstairs. She's days away from taking her first totally independent walk all by herself, and you can tell she really wants to be able to do it and is kind of frustrated of having to depend on us. So in a few matter of days here, we'll have this little child running all over the place, knocking things over, and but I can't complain. Pretty special. Okay, again, I'm going to put a shadow in here. Maybe I'll even, there's a couple little holes in here. Right, okay. So you see the difference between these? And I'm using my imagination to kind of just think of what this could possibly be, right? So, which I think is fun. I know for some people it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's working fine now? Oh. Oh, looks like it's back okay. Sorry about that. I see a lot of people weren't able to follow along there. It kind of stopped working for some of you, so hopefully it's YouTube's thing here, so oops, what have I done? So I'll just let that finish there for those of you that were still drawing, and I apologize again, and I'm just going to having some technical problems here on my own end. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to It's gonna close that, restart it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on going here, and I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see, 5:30. How much more time should we spend? Before we jump into this, I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to take a look at let's look up what's people's favorite tree images. I'm going to go for tools. Let's go for large. And we'll try just drawing a tree from life here. A few of them. Ooh, I love these ones. Okay, so this is going to be cool. These are my favorite types of trees in the world. Come on. And Joshua tree, yucca tree. Okay, so let's do a drawing of this tree here. Oh, I'm going to move that over. Okay, so I've been to Joshua Tree. I did one of my first big art projects in Joshua Tree, so it has definite sentimental value for me, for sure. Okay, so how would I go about illustrating this scene here? Well, let's think about it, trying to approach it like Matisse would have, right? So just let's do a sketch of it, and we'll see how kind of and then we can decide how much detail we want to put into it. So first thing I'm just doing is trying to get that horizon line in the background, just to kind of help place this in particular kind of space. And then one thing I can do is, let's say I can even draw this out like I would be doing a figure, right? The action lines inside. All right, so kind of starting something like this. Okay, and then from around it, and I can use this as maybe one side of the tree and kind of just add the trunk or the other side to it. Let's straighten that up a bit. Okay. So here's the beginning of this drawing. Now I can widen any of these things at any point, but just to get started, what would we do? Now we have all of these very spiky shapes, and maybe I'm just going to draw them a little bit. These kind of circles a little bit darker. Because I'm trying to think of them as like, what is the whole form here? All right, we got maybe a few over here. In certain instances, doing a drawing like this might be actually very effective. It might, you know, if I was doing, let's say, illustration, you know, quick illustrations for like a landscape architect, and I'm trying to show where this tree needs to be. I don't need to do all of the detail. That could be enough. I'm just going to sharpen it. Okay. I'm going to quickly put in, here's, let's say, this back hill, and I could even draw another tree in here. Now, this other tree, instead of being kind of spread out like this in behind, is kind of like this. So I don't really see all the branches of the tree. I could draw it like that, but, you know, first of all, it's going to visually look a little bit strange. So I'm just going to use my artistic license and force it back into a visible kind of a shape. Okay. And again, down here, we've got a kind of a big bush down there, and another one here, and then we've got another big one off to the side. We've got some kind of grassy things here. So just in terms of my composition, this feels like I've got a lot of the main details in here. And let's spend 8 minutes finishing this drawing off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe just tackle one of these spiky shapes right in the center and just kind of start drawing. And I'm also kind of just starting this inside rather than right on the end, because if I don't like it, I can kind of disguise it with other things. So I kind of like the way I did that, so I'm just going to continue this around here. So notice how kind of quickly I'm drawing. I like to always think as I'm drawing, well, what if, you know, it started to rain right now and I had to pack up and move. Do I have enough information on here for me to feel like I've got this tree, or do I need to take a picture of it, or would I have to come back tomorrow? I'd like to be in the position where I could say, okay, I feel like even though I didn't spend 3 hours there drawing, I've got a lot of the most important stuff and it's on the page and I can move on with my life. Okay. One thing that I'm doing, you see these, just putting this little line over top of this tells me that this branch is kind of coming forward, you know, so that it's you know, it's kind of like in front of the rest of the body of the tree. Like, how would I describe that? Here's some handy wipes, right? So it's the difference between this branch being right on the side, like this, versus being out here, like that, right? So if this is the center of the tree trunk, right, versus being back here, like that. Like that, being back there, might be like this. Does that, you see that? How this branch now looks like it's starting on the other side here, versus this one looks like it's kind of maybe coming towards us a little bit. Same thing here, right? So, in the same instance, right? So it's that little play of shapes that is really kind of important. So again, I'm going to move that. Now it looks like this one's coming in front of there. I'm not really looking at the photograph so much right now, just I'm trying to explain these kind of concepts, right? Okay, so I've got this beginning part of the scene. I might come back and add more detail to it in a minute, but I got 4.5 minutes left. So, let's see. I'm gonna get some of this bush down here. We've got this one down here, and then I got another one. I kind of like the tree disappearing into this big kind of series of grass and bushes. And so this is kind of my personal style of drawing, which you can see how inspired it is from Matisse, right? So I've got all of these little pieces of grass, and sometimes I'm just filling things in maybe where they're not necessarily originally there, but in terms of the composition, I want something there. And I like layering things in behind, so if that's there, I feel like this needs to come in there so that it kind of disappears in behind this thing here. Let's get this tree. This time I'm going to have the branch on this side coming through, whereas this one on this side. Okay. And then here, I'm going to put in, to me it looks like there's these, and I can't really quite see any detail, so I'm inventing all of this. It kind of looks to me like there's little tiny flowers or tiny little leaves on here, and I can't draw all of them. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is how I might do it. And let's say I can have a different kind of style right here. So instead of little dots, I'm going to have little lines. All right. How about for this one? I'm just going to try to, like, off the top of my head, I'm just imagine what a different kind of style of plant might be here. Then we've got all these little tiny bushes. I got a minute left on my clock. What's another way that we could making little circles in here? Maybe I'm going to widen some of these lines. Okay. So I've got like 40 seconds left on the clock. Now again, I'm moving kind of quickly, but this is going to lead into next week's episode, is, you know, how to draw, you know, a landscape very quickly and efficiently. So in my case, I've done a lot of traveling and had to kind of draw quickly because I can't, you know, I'm literally moving, or there's people waiting for me, so I don't have an opportunity to, you know, add a lot of detail. So I have to kind of find ways to capture things quickly. Okay, one more. Okay, so this drawing is not the most, you know, realistic. It's certainly not realistic really at all, right? It's kind of a strange looking image, very kind of almost kind of cartoony. But given the amount of time that I had to do this, this is my first attempt. Now, one thing I would suggest is, if you have the time, would be to do a drawing like this and then try drawing it again. Keep the same photograph, right, and work from the same photograph. Now, because then you could think of this as like a quick sketch, and then you could develop it later on. Like a couple of things I might have done is really try to get more precision in the tree, in the texture of the tree, instead of just these big kind of very generic straight lines, is to kind of follow along the edges. So how about we'll do one more drawing here, and let's find one more. It'll be kind of a different type of tree. Ooh, this little bonsai tree, that's kind of cool. That is pretty neat. Okay. Let's, ooh, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's drag this down here. Let's get this to fit on the page. Okay, one more tree. Let's give it 10 minutes from start to finish. Let's see how much we can get done here. Now, I might draw a little bit faster. Well, you know, I'll try to keep this not too fast. Or maybe I'll show you how I would try to draw this tree in the shortest amount of time. And then, so the first thing I would probably do is try to get this bowl or vase or whatever you call it on the bottom, right, in the table. Notice I'm drawing right through, because as I darken this, you know, I can come back and get more specific. So maybe I'm drawing a little bit too light. I'm just going to come back over top of here just so people can see. Okay. So that took me like, I don't know, 30 seconds to do. And I probably would actually be going a little bit faster normally. But I want to be able to nail this in here before I really go too much farther, because I want to know where things are. I want to make sure everything fits on the page. So I love drawing like the roots and the tree trunk and the branches more than I do the leaves. So I'm going to now spend my time focusing on this aspect of things. And so there's this kind of curving part of the tree here that I want to kind of nail. So remember the other day we were drawing like, what does this remind me of? Like drawing hair. So trying to kind of play around, like following like a single strand of hair and seeing if you can kind of make, find the main form just based on a few of those kind of hairs. Okay, now we got some dirt down here. I'll come back and fix that. Okay. So I'm trying to capture this feeling of this plant kind of spinning and kind of growing as it spins. I don't really know much about bonsai plants for sure. Although I've here in Vancouver at they have a really cool gardens, the Dr. Dat Yat Sen garden downtown, and they, even though it's a Chinese garden, they have some bonsai plants, and I think there is probably a more specific name for Chinese bonsai, or a Chinese version of them. So this is, one thing. Maybe that. Let's just go with it. So I'm kind of building up these clumps. If I had more time, then maybe I would try to, go really further deep into the detail. But, I've got 5 minutes left on my clock, and I want to try to get as much done as possible. Okay, so now I'm just going to start kind of darkening some of the darker areas in. Right, imagining that this is, I'm trying to see the forest through the tree, right? And not get caught up in all the little details here. So squinting my eyes as I look at this to see if I can see just the mass of the form rather than all the little components of it. Okay. So another thing too I want is a distinction between the tree, the trunk and the branches, and the leaves themselves, right? I don't want people being like, is this a leaf or is this a branch, right? Or so you could see I've kind of drawn this with a very clear, kind of solid line. Versus these are kind of much more fluffy and indistinct. Okay, I got just under 3 minutes here. And I know it's the bottom of the image is a little bit more complex than this, with, you know, looks like a couple of things of marble and a cylindrical piece of marble and blah blah blah. You know, it's like I'm just going to omit those details. In your drawing, you're welcome to kind of capture them if you like, but okay. So now that I got 2 minutes left, I can kind of go back. I might even use a piece of paper to keep my hand from making too much of a mess on here. And I'm going to now add a little bit of detail into these forms to kind of suggest the leaves. Now, you can certainly spend more time on here. What I'm trying to do is also do this as randomly as possible, so that it doesn't look too organized, right? Because the leaves on a tree kind of have that kind of chaotic kind of structure. Right, they are growing in different directions most of the time. So I'm kind of moving around, making my pencil go in different directions. You know, and I can explode a little bit outside of these little cloud shapes that I've got. 17 seconds. Okay. You can think of like little rocks or something down here. Okay. So, that's I did that in 10 minutes or so. Quick drawing of that bonsai plant. I could still go in and add more shading and kind of darken it up even more, but for our purpose, that feels good enough, right? Okay. I don't think anybody sent in any images for me to look at. So there's no new feedback I need to give anybody right now, which is great, because we're almost at a 2-hour-long class, which I'm sure makes everybody feel a little bit exhausted. So I think right now I'm just going to call it a session here, and next class we're going to be drawing some actual landscapes. So we began today just sort of looking at leaves and trees, because they're, you know, in many ways the main component of a landscape, right? We've talked many episodes ago, I think on our 3rd or 4th episode, about buildings and drawing things in geometric perspective. So the next class, which will be our final drawing class, is drawing like forest scenes, like maybe with 1 or 2 small buildings inside, and really kind of playing around with trees and plants as they kind of move backwards into space and creating deep spaces. And for me, that's the stuff that I love drawing. So when I go on trips, I love going and finding some of the kind of more natural rural landscapes and spending a little bit of time. Looks like another battery went out. Okay. Well, I was just saying...
Sound seems to not be working.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So, thank you, everybody. Again, I'm not sure where it cut out, but please like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support it with a small PayPal donation or a large one, up to you. You can find the link below. Otherwise, we'll see you on our next class, and enjoy the little bit of time you have until then. Okay, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Oh. No. Aren't you going to come and switch with me? There we go. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.